Well, thank you all. I appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunity to come and talk. I will freely admit 2025 has been kicking our butt a little bit, so I'm happy to have a positive thing to come talk about these happy family memories that we created. So I have just like a loose guideline of talking points, especially, if you have questions, please feel free to interrupt. Yeah, well, I'll try to center more over here. Too many screens. Yeah. So basically, I'm just going to kind of talk about like why did we even make the decision to do this crazy thing, what life on the road was like, and then we'll hit kind of like what was good about it and what was bad about it. And I've got a few pictures. I took 12,000 pictures during 8 years on the road. Like you're in someplace new and it's just, clicking everything. So I tried to call out just a few of them. I didn't want to give like a travel log. And then depending on how time and how things go, I may read a chapter from the book. We met some really interesting people. So I might introduce you to maybe one or two of those. So let me bring up, see if I can get back to my pictures here. Basically, I know every time I say RV, people have different visions that come to their mind. So I wanted to show you what it meant for us. Okay. So technically RV is anything that has sleeping, eating, cooking, and a bathroom space. So they come in all shapes and sizes. There's RVs you can drive, there's RVs you can tow. This is called a fifth wheel RV because of the way it attaches to the truck. There's also bumper pull RVs. So yeah, if you set out to go about RV shopping, you're in for a big educational experience. So what drove us to make this decision? So 2009-ish, I had my own business, just one at that point. And we were homeschooling our kids. So my office was in the basement. We were a single income house at that point, so I wanted to keep my costs low. I'm downstairs working, doing web development, building websites for clients. Wife and family are upstairs doing the homeschooling, so we're all in the same box. And at some point, we've tried to figure out like who had the original idea. We don't know, probably me, but that's kind of my role in the family is to be the idea guy. But hey, we could do this anywhere, right? We're not tied to a school. We're not tied to a location. My clients don't care where I am. They just care that the work gets done. I had some local clients. Most of them were not. I grew up camping in an RV. My dad, by the time I was a teen, my dad had 4 weeks of vacation. He could take all at once. So we took these big RV-based road trips from Michigan to Colorado and went four-wheeling through the mountains and stuff. So I had those memories to kind of bank off of. My wife grew up camping in a pop-up camper, so she kind of had that camping experience as well. So yeah, somewhere the idea came like, hey, we could do this. We could just buy an RV and hit the road. And for a while, it was just like a fun idea to bounce back and forth off each other, right? And just kind of one of those daydreaming kind of things you do as a couple. And then we had a friend that really kind of challenged us. He's like, well, why don't you do it? And so that kind of became our approach. Like, is there a reason we should not do this? So we weren't looking for ways to do it. We were looking for reasons not to. And I thought for sure, like, somebody would say no. Either the banker would say no, or the insurance guy would say no, or our finances would say no. We didn't find a no. We just kept finding paths to be able to do this thing. So the big question initially was, and this is how we ran into it. Like the minute you go to an RV dealer and you say, yeah, we're looking for an RV that we want to live in for a while, they're like, oh, let me show you the biggest thing we have, right? Some of those Class A buses, they're hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like that was not in our budget at all. So we found giving ourselves a constraint was the best thing we could do. And our constraint was, let's just do this for a year. Maybe longer, maybe shorter. If we get out there 6 weeks and we absolutely hate it, there's no one saying that we have to stick it out. If we get out there and love it and want to go longer, there's no one saying we can't. But just for now, let's just assume it's going to be a year-long experience, because that helps us figure out what RV to be in. That helps us decide the other big decision, which is, do we have to sell our house to do this? So we had our first starter home. I think we'd been in it maybe 10 years at that point. So, one of the big questions was, in order to be able to afford to do this, do we need to sell the house to fund everything else? So the just for the year thing really was very empowering. So now we could say, okay, what can we tolerate for a year? I don't need a 42-foot bus. We can tolerate a much smaller RV. Can we keep the house? Yes, we can keep the house. We found a friend. We ran the numbers, and we really didn't need rent money from it, and we saw it as an opportunity to take so this opportunity for us felt like a blessing. So we appreciated being able to turn around and bless somebody else through our experience. So we found a friend who just really needed a place to stay, rent-free, and put her in our house, because it was still beneficial to us. She's still a presence in the house. She's going to be there if a pipe breaks or whatever. We're going to have eyes on site to be able to fix those things. And she handled our mail for us, and that was the big thing. So we didn't have to change our mailing address. She would just get our mail. We'd get on the phone with her, go through it. She's like, well, you got a bill from this, and do you want me to open that? Which was a huge, huge benefit to us. So it really worked out well. She actually repainted the kitchen. She did some improvements to the house while she was there that she didn't charge us for. So overall, it worked really well. So that helped us figure out. So this is the RV we settled on for our first one. This is a 30-foot bunkhouse fifth wheel trailer. So I don't know if you can see the little stacked windows towards the back. Those are where the kids' bunks were. We call them coffin bunks because they weren't huge, but they made them work. And because I stayed small with the trailer, that let me buy a truck that isn't the big diesel dually, $60,000 truck that sometimes you have to buy. So this was a used gas-powered truck. So basically, I think we got on the road between the truck and trailer was about $25,000, and I was able to buy the truck outright. I think we took a small loan out of the trailer. So financially, less than the cost of what a lot of people spend on a car. So overall, it was that 8 years, 42 states, day to day. So life on the road. I'll talk work first. So you're talking 2010. Our first internet service was 20 gigs a month that we had to share as a family to work and homeschool. Now, luckily I was doing web development, which is mostly text files. It's not a huge, doesn't take up a lot of bandwidth. Their schooling at the time didn't require a lot of online stuff. So we made it work, but we did often look for libraries. We became like library tailgaters. So we'd find the library, we'd pack a lunch, we'd have the camper in an RV park somewhere. We'd drive the truck to the library, we'd bring lunch with us, we'd go in the library, do a couple hours of work and reading, come back out the parking lot, flip the tailgate down, cook lunch on the tailgate, have lunch, and then go back in the library for the rest of the day. So kind of offloaded our data usage that way. Well, and the kids actually had books that you couldn't check them out because you weren't a resident, but they would just pick up the same book in the next library. So it was I read that book across 6 different libraries in 3 different states, kind of thing. But it worked out really well. There's some beautiful libraries in this country, some amazing ones. It would be interesting just to do a library tour. RV parks at the time were advertising that they had Wi-Fi. What we found in practice is it was hardly ever usable. You may get on enough to check your email, but you weren't going to work on it. And especially if it was a busy weekend, it was in more traffic. Yeah, during the week, sometimes it was much better. From a billing and invoicing perspective, everything flowed the same that it did before because we had that person in our house. So I would, create my client invoices online, send them off. Actually, what we did was for getting payment, our bank was small enough to work with us. So we just had our clients send checks to the bank, and they would open it and deposit it into our account for us, and then let us know if they had done that. This was kind of before, like now you could just take a picture of the check and do it digitally, right? But that was kind of before all those services came out. So yeah, and the bankers were great. Like we'd call them up, like, where are you now? Like, what state are you in? Like they were following our travels. So it was nice having that kind of small town vibe with the bank. Business-wise, so I said 2 businesses. I was doing web development. We also had a training business. So at the time, I was specialized in using a particular CMS to build websites on. We had a training business where I would train other web developers on using that same CMS. So one of the ways we kind of funded our travels was we would schedule classes in a big city as we moved, San Francisco or Vegas or Austin, and then we would sell seats to the class and get students to show up and take the training. So closely related business, but yeah, it was 2 businesses with 2 websites and all of that stuff. But overall, worked really well. All right, let's talk school a little bit. So it's always funny to me. People will say, well, you traveled for 8 years. What did you do for school? And I'm like, we traveled for 8 years. Like, what more do you need? It was all field trip. Like, all the value you get from one field trip out, it was that all the time. Like, every location was just rich with opportunities. Museums had these great displays. So this was Pennsylvania, I think. It was, you have an interface where you build a roller coaster, and then it loads, and you go experience the roller coaster that you made. Stuff like that. That's all school to me. But let's see this one. Every park has trails where there's, outdoors, navigation, direction finding, all those things kind of come up just by taking rides to the woods. This one was really funny. Virginia, as I recall. So we're sitting there trying to figure out where we are and how to get to the next place. I'm trying to let my son do all of that so he learns to map read. Obviously, when you live in an RV, wayfinding navigation is very important. I wanted them to know how to read paper maps. We had two printed atlases in the backseat of the truck for them both to follow along. My son was really good at navigation, but so we're sitting here reading the map, and out of the woods walks a full-on knight in shining armor with a sword.
Oh my goodness.
And he's like, it's that way. I'm just so dumbfounded. I'm holding a camera and I didn't get a picture of it. Like, what? Why? Some kind of a Ren Fest going on in town, and he was on his way to the bathroom or something. But I'm like, we literally got saved by a knight in shining armor in the middle of the woods. But those kind of moments were just what really kept us going on this thing. So school, every national park has junior ranger programs. Like they have a curriculum. You walk in and you ask for it. Find these things in the park, answer these questions, and when they're done, they get a badge. We had friends with kids who had vests that were just like lined with badges because they'd been to every national park in the country, and that was basically their homeschooling curriculum. And that's all stuff you've paid for as a taxpayer. Like it's no extra cost. Let's talk about moving days a bit. So our first year, because again, we're just doing it for a year, we were in a rush. Like, I want to see the whole country. I want to see every state. That's a lot to do in a year. We had friends who did all 50 states in a year, and they were just basically driving all day, every day for the most part. I didn't want to live that way. Right? I don't want to just wave at national parks as I go by. I want to experience them. So, but we still, at the first year, we moved every 2 to 3 days on average. So you drive, you stop, spend 2 nights basically, then pick up and drive again. What we learned was to limit ourselves constraints again. So our driving day constraint became 4 hours. We wanted to move in 4-hour chunks. So by the time you get up, get your breakfast, get things put away, get the trailer all disconnected and reconnected to the truck, all of that stuff, get on the road. In that 4 hours, there's going to be a stop for gas, there's going to be a stop for potty break, but that usually let us get to the next place like early afternoon. Ideally, we were set up in the new site like by 2-ish in the afternoon, grab a nap or whatever, recover, and then still have that evening again. So the great thing about living this way versus just camping is we're not in a hurry, really. It's our pace. Like we don't we don't got to get to this destination so that we can spend a week there. We can just kind of pace ourselves and take our time. That's kind of what we started doing. The advantages of RVs is even if the day you stop, you don't have a campground picked. Like, we slept at Walmart's, we slept at Cracker Barrels. I see all the Cracker Barrel hate going on. I'm like, no, man, we'd spend $25 on a meal and get a campsite for the night. Like I love Cracker Barrels; they're great for that. Sam's Clubs, we did some church parking lots. Like, RVs, to be an RV, you're fully self-contained, right? You've got a power source, you've got water, everything runs on 12 volts. We'd go to Walmart, buy a pizza, come back out, cook it in the parking lot, have dinner, and go to bed. So it frees you up. Being that self-contained frees you up for route planning. And actually, route planning was interesting. So when we first left, so I'm the creative, let's go do all the things sort. My wife's the, we need a to-do list. I need my spreadsheet, and probably good that we have both of those in one house. But when we first left, it's like, okay, this is our destination. We have three different routes we can take to get there, depending on how things time out. I've got my GPS and my phone and the atlas all lined up. And I think, just a few months in, it was drive west for an hour and wake me up. We'll figure it out from there. Like you find a comfort level, right? Can you get your sea legs under you? You realize, like, worst case, if you missed one highway, there's another one down the road. You may drive a little further, but again, you're not on that. It's not like you have to stick to a very specific route because you're on a tight timeline. So route planning really eased up over time. We didn't really we had, I guess initially, while we were trip planning,
Hello?
I put a map up of the states on the wall.
Hello?
And just told the family, like, just put pegs
Hello?
in at places, just kind of a bucket list.
Can
Like, Painted Desert, that sounds interesting. Let's see that when we get out there. My son wanted to see the Baseball Hall of Fame. He was a big Little League fan, so he wanted to go to Cooperstown.
Did I have to sign?
And so we had those destinations to kind of knock off for a while. After that, it became kind of influenced by weather, by where friends were at or family were at, by what was close by. It was very much a fluid, kind of ever-evolving process of figuring out where to go next. I mean, generally you've got seasons. Once October hits, if you're in the northern states, like, parks are closing down. You can't stay at campgrounds in November in Michigan or New York. They're going to be closed. You got to go south. So that kind of pushes you in a direction for those seasons. In the summertime, in the north especially, campgrounds get really busy. So for a couple years, we chose to summer I'll spend all summer long in one spot. So we found a town in Michigan that had a city-owned RV park where we could buy the whole season for like $700. It boiled down to like $11 a day if we bought the whole season. So cheap living for the summer. We don't have to deal with the busy campgrounds. It had a lake. It was kind of idyllic. And the kids were old enough by that point that they wanted summer jobs. So son got a job at Subway. My daughter started volunteering at the local animal shelter. So we could kind of give them those opportunities that you can't do when you're moving all the time, basically. So, and then the other thing that we did from a route perspective, a lot of the families that we met had, like, they would do like the whole Lewis and Clark Trail, or they would try to visit all the state capitals. They had kind of themes for their visits. And we didn't have that most of the time, except for we did drive the whole Mississippi River, top to bottom, which was an awesome drive. I would do it again. I would go south to north instead. But there's so much history in the country, kind of on one side or the other of that river. And I grew up reading Mark Twain, like the whole, Huck Finn and everything was a strong attractor point. But so that was a really good experience. All right, so work, school, moving, route planning. Just overall, from a lifestyle perspective, it felt very free. Like we had this phrase that we owned our days. We decided when to get up. We decided, okay, what are we going to do today? School, work, exploration. We're going to move. From a work perspective, it was my company. I could choose what project I wanted to work on generally. And we could decide where we wanted to be while we did that. Like, well, how much more freedom can you get than to be able to choose all those things for yourselves? It really was to the point where I expected a knock on the door some morning, like somebody in a hat saying, okay, you've had your fun, time's over, gotta go home now. Like, it really felt like something we shouldn't, it felt like it should be illegal almost. And then the other thing that being RV-based allowed was experimenting with other lifestyles. I had these pictures all in a certain order, and then it all resorted them when it moved over to this machine. So give me just a second. So there's a good one. So I had this notion, again, crazy idea guy, hey, maybe we could sell the RV and buy a houseboat and then just go up and down on the Mississippi River with the seasons. So this one I thought we should probably try that first before we jump in. So we'd gone back, we'd done our full year, we went back and sold our house. So by this point we're all in the RV. Everything I owned, I was driving down the road, like everything I own is here and all mobile. But financially, it freed up some money, and we can go do this. We can rent a houseboat for a week on the Mississippi River, try this out, and see if it's something that we want to jump to do next. So we rented this out of Lansing, Iowa. We could go north, go into Wisconsin and Minnesota. Again, Mark Twain, Mississippi River, sounded great. Was not for us at all. Not at all. What we found out with the Mississippi River, I had these visions of, hey, that looks interesting, we'll just go over there. Or, hey, there's a little inlet over there, let's just go over there. You can't do that. There's a channel, and you have to be in the shipping channel when you're moving. And the channel is enforced by what they call wing dams. So they're cement things that jut out from the banks, but they're submerged. You don't know where they are. They give you a map that approximates their location, and they're probably like an app now, I'm guessing. But so when you go to beach the boat, I had my son up on the boat, literally doing, you guys know where Mark Twain came from, the name, right? They're sounding the depth of the water. He had to be up there with a pole doing that as we went into the bank to make sure we didn't hit a wing dam. And if he said, no wing dam, I had to back off the throttles right away just so that's a rented boat, I don't want to buy it. So it was pretty stressful. And even, I don't know if you can see in this picture, to beach the boat, you had to set an anchor in each direction because there's current to the river, right? It's not like a lake. So you got to set anchors and make sure your boat doesn't wander off with the current. And come the weekend, so this is a weekday, come the weekend, there's just small boat traffic everywhere. I'm aiming for an open spot on the beach, and there's 6 other boats all passing me up and jumping in. It's like trying to find a parking lot at Sam's Club. Same kind of thing. Just really, really stressful.
Showing her.
And especially stressful were the locks. So the Mississippi is not one flowing river. There's a series of locks and dams up and down it that kind of enforce the water levels. So we had to go through one of those going upriver and then through one coming downriver. These things are like a box kite if it's windy. So it's a 60-foot houseboat. It's windy out. I don't know. We get in the lock and they shut the thing, and you try to get up to the side wall, and there's ropes down that you kind of try to lash to the boat and hang on to. And we're just all over because of the wind. And I radioed the guy running the lock. I'm like, you have a nickname for these rental boats, don't you? He's like, yeah. I was like, runaway rentals? Something. So very, very stressful. So yeah, it was a great experience. We'll never forget it. I'm glad we did it. It was not a lifestyle for us at all. But again, because we were RV based, it kind of gave us the means to do that. We also tried homesteading. That was another, we had friends that bought property that were in an RV, so they just put a space for their RV. And then they got rabbits and started growing things, and it looked very down back to earth and grow your own food. And so we managed to find a dairy farm and a goat farm that had RV space for the RV, so we could park the RV on it and then get engaged with their activities. They call it woofing. You guys heard of woofing? It's worldwide opportunities on organic farms. So if you can kind of combine, it's a way to get some cheap travel sometimes, because you basically can work in exchange for your housing and some food. So you can pick a farm kind of where you want to go in the world. You get there, you spend some time helping them out on the farm, and then you can kind of travel once you're there. So we used the woofing organization to find places to put the RV on, and then kind of get engaged with their farming activities. And we just found again that homesteading was interesting, but I realized like by the time we got into that life and got things going, like I've got teenagers, and I probably got maybe 3-4 years left with them before they're going to fly the coop, and then there goes my help. And I'm left with the two of us to run whatever this thing was that we got going. So again, interesting experience. We stayed on an animal rescue ranch in Texas. They had an emu, some pigs, horses, goats, sheep, alpacas, dogs and cats, a bunch of other ones. So my daughter especially was really interested in learning animal care. So she got to be the caretaker for a lot of those animals, get up feeding them at 7 o'clock in the morning, running around. So yeah, good experience for her. I did want to talk a bit about, we're in a creatively themed event here. There's a bit of a conundrum with travel in that for me anyway, it fuels my creativity being a photographer. Again, you get all these new things to aim a camera at. You can get pictures of your RV in these beautiful settings. That's in Mesa, Arizona. So you've got a lot of inspiration, but you've got a limited space and a limited ability to be able to express it, right? So photography is great because the pictures don't take up much physical space. But if you want to do painting, if you want to be a costume maker, like people do it, but you've got a bigger RV, so extra space or whatever, you got to be able to accommodate it. So it can be a bit of a challenge as a creative person to find a way to express that while you're also still light enough to be mobile. I do like doing sculpture work a little bit, so I was able to do this. So the sculpture work I like to do is find these old electronics, disassemble them, and then use the pieces to make things. So like little steampunk turtles, little ants, little dogs. So I was able to do this, kind of working in small quantities. I'd buy like 1 or 2 pieces of gear, disassemble them. I had like a couple tubs I could store in the belly of the RV and then drag it out at the picnic table and work through it. But I had to clean it all up every night. I didn't want to leave it out in the campsite for weather and animals and theft or whatever. So it was like my gym plan. After this thing's over here, do the thing, and then kind of put it all away again. So you can find ways to do that while you're on the road. Again, you're just dealing within those constraints you've set up for yourself. All right, let's talk about kind of what I saw was good about this experience, and I'll get to some of the things that were hard or not so good. So benefits, I think they're obvious. It's like you enlarge your worldview. As homeschoolers, I worried with my kids, like we lived in West Michigan, it's very nice, it's very white middle class, like the whole world isn't that way. I wanted them to experience more than just West Michigan culture. So we succeeded in that to an extent, but also learned that RVing is also very white middle class generally. So we still had to work to get out of that bubble, but we found a lot of people and lifestyles that we would not have found in West Michigan. So to give them that experience before they launch off on their own, I thought was really important. So our slogan while we traveled was closer family, simpler living, richer education, and uncommon adventures. It's kind of our website tagline. So closer family, literally, we put puberty in a 30-foot box. Our kids were 12 and 13 when we left. People ask, would you do it again? Like, yes, but sooner. It works, and I'm glad that we were often in places where we had a lot of space around us, because, okay, you got an issue, go for a walk. Like, just go take a walk around the campground, find a better attitude out there somewhere and bring it back with you. But I have two teens who shared a space. They're both in that room together. Now the second RV that we bought was bigger. So what happened with the first one was we basically outgrew it. The kids each went up like 6 inches. So we needed more space. So this is the second RV, still a bunkhouse in the back, but they have the whole back of the trailer now rather than just kind of half of it. And so this one we actually, we ordered this new. It's the only new thing I've ever purchased on that scale. And what was nice was I could tell them to leave all the ugly stripes off of it. Because typically it would have had, you've seen RVs or all the big swooshes on the sides. I'm like, just don't. And then we put our branding on it eventually. So that was our website name while we were traveling was Ditching Suburbia. So that was our logo on the back. But this one, so we could option it out for more the way that we lived. Because we used the RV probably differently than if you were just camping. But still got two teens in a small space. They just, they would take turns getting dressed and figured it out. The biggest conflict that they had was I have one neat Nick and one messy head. So there was a constant stress over, are things put away or are things not put away? That was the biggest deal. But I think probably would have had that in a house anyway. Simpler living. So I will say RVing is simple, but that doesn't mean that it's easy. Right, so you realize when you move into a new space, apartment or house or whatever, you get your utility set up, you get your trash set up, you know where to park, you got your power coming in. With an RV, like every time you move, you have to refigure that out. Like, okay, where's my power? Where's my water? Where do I dump my tanks? Where's the trash in the park? Where's the grocery store? All of that stuff you're doing on a continual basis. So it's not always easy. It is simpler. Richer education, I think it's obvious. There's things that my kids saw and experienced and learned that they wouldn't have otherwise. I'll bring up here. So we have moments like this. This is on Virginia Beach again. So daughter, again, animals, natural habitats, like what grows, what's going to wash up on shore. So she buys a book and we go off on the shoreline and okay, what is that? And you're learning it right there where it happens. Or how about you read the Gettysburg Address right where Lincoln gave it. Let's see if she had. I don't think I have a picture there now, but her big experience came in Mesa, Arizona. So it's in the park where this picture was taken. This park had a number of ranger-led programs, so you could go learn like what's edible in the Sonoran Desert or birds of the Sonoran Desert. Well, she started going on all of those walks because that was the stuff that she just loved. And the rangers, we were, back up a little bit, we actually worked for the park here. So we did a thing called camp hosting, where it's kind of like woofing. You provide services to the campground in exchange for your site. So my wife and I would work at the entrance station and check license plates and tags coming in. And in exchange for doing that for a set number of hours a week, we get our campsite, we get laundry facilities. So we're there for a couple months at that point. So Miranda, my daughter, started going to all of those talks. And they started okay, you're back for the third time on this. Tell you what, why don't you take the barrel cactus, and next time we get to the point where we normally talk about the barrel cactus, you talk about the barrel cactus. And so they started feeding her more and more of that talk until ultimately she did the whole thing. So she was, I think, 14 by that point, an introvert. She's my reader, writer, give me headphones, I'll go be in my bunk girl. But she's speaking publicly to people, giving these lectures about what's, the cactus of the Sonoran Desert. That's from a homeschooling parent perspective, that's an experience I couldn't buy for her. That's invaluable. They actually, so the staff all got together and bought her the Sonoran Desert Bible. Like it was that thick of, everything that goes on in the Sonoran Desert. So yeah, so from a homeschooling education perspective, I've told them, like, I can't give you a lot of money as an inheritance, but hopefully I've given you stories and an experience that I told them this as well, like, I expect to have a conversation when you're about 30, for when this finally sinks in, like this opportunity and what you were able to do. Probably gonna take you about that long to figure it out. You doing okay in time? Yeah. Okay. Adventures, I think obvious as well. I think we did enlarge their worldview. They obviously, at least within the United States, they know much more about the country than they did before. I remember my son, he went for his first job interview, and I'm like, don't walk in going, I've traveled the country, but if it comes up, feel free to talk about it. And his interviewer was going to the Keys on vacation like the next week. He's like, oh, well, you can go scuba diving here. You can see the sea turtles there. And if you go to this park, they got some really cool birds, and you can stay at this campground. And he was like, yeah, we had this great conversation during my job interview, and he ended up getting the job. Whether it was because of that story, I don't know, but I'm like, this just gives you a way to be memorable during a job interview. And I think that experience has blessed us all. Like for me, for a lot of guys, they find connection on sports. Like, I'm not a sports guy. I didn't grow up watching sports. I don't know much about them. I'm good with cars of a certain era, but if you're not into cars, but travel has given me a lot more commonality with people. Usually if I find out where you're from or where you've traveled, I can find some connection point there. And it's been really good, just a conversation builder for me as well. All right, let's talk sacrifices, costs. Was it all magic comes at a price? Is that the quote from a TV show I remember? All magic comes at a price, right? So obviously you have to make trade-offs. And the way I ended up thinking about this, your tolerance for inconvenience sets the level of your adventure. So think about the tolerance, what inconveniences can you tolerate? Because a lot of our modern life, if you look through your Amazon history, you've probably found fixes for a lot of inconveniences, right? You're buying things to smooth that out. More comfortable chair, more comfortable pillow, better way to make coffee, whatever that is. But you have to give up a lot of that stuff in order to become mobile and have these fun adventures. And so it's almost like there's, because we met families who lived on bicycles and biked the whole North American continent. Like, that's amazing. I couldn't do that. There's too many inconveniences there. I don't want to live in a tent every night. I don't want to eat rice and beans every day for food. Couldn't do that. Even van life. So our last RV, so we had 3 total. So this was the last one. This was the, kids are out of the house, let's get really small RV. It gets real when you go down to this size. Like, seriously, I remember my wife holding like her big mixing bowl, going, there's not room in this for this bowl. I can't find a place for it. I'm like, there is no place for that bowl in this unit. I didn't have room for my big DSLR camera in this rig. Like, I had to give that up. So I'm like, well, I guess we just take pictures on the phone now. Clothes, like, you have to decide, like, who are you going to be? What are you going to do that's going to fit in that space? And it was like, I guess we're going to be hikers because we can fit shoes. But the upside is we can park anywhere. We can go through drive-thrus now to get food. Like, I don't have to worry about height clearances on bridges. Like, it's super practical. It actually had a little generator underneath the rear end. I could go sit at a park that didn't have power and fire up the generator and, charge up my laptops and make coffee or whatever in that. But it took us, to me, this is a result of living in an RV already for several years. Like, we got used to things. Your tolerances change. You're willing to put up with more inconveniences in order to get things like being more nimble and being able to park or to camp in more rustic places My pickup truck that I pulled with was not 4-wheel drive, so oftentimes there were places I would have gone, but I didn't have 4-wheel drive to get out if I got stuck. So this wasn't 4-wheel drive, but it was still smaller. We could get into smaller national parks and stuff. But yeah, it really forces you to evaluate your life and what you want to do and what you want to be. But the cool thing is I had one key on my key ring. It opened the door on the van, it went in the ignition of the van, and that's all I had. And I still remember, like, I'd be working on some project and my wife would be doing something. I'm like, I need to go to the hardware store to get this part. And she's like, okay. I'm like, no, you don't understand. We need to go to the hardware store because my transportation is the thing that you're cooking supper in or whatever. But right there, in case I needed something, they didn't care, and I had power. I could run a drill or whatever. So
yeah, sorry, let me call you right back.
But yeah, sacrifices, smaller space, fewer job opportunities. You're always moving. We had to find remote work. You couldn't really look for local opportunities. Wi-Fi was an issue more at first than later on. Like, things improved. I think eventually we found our way to like an unlimited data plan on like a 5G something. So we didn't have that 20 gig constraint that we had at first. Grocery shopping, we really just went to Walmart's because we just didn't want to learn yet another grocery store. Like Walmart's, at least for the most part, have standardized layouts. You didn't have to try to sign up for somebody's new rewards card to get the good prices and all of that. But we did have several times where like the stores are so similar, we'd walk out and go, oh, wait, like, what state are we in again? And where's the trailer? Because it felt like the last exposure we were in. From a kid's perspective, organized sports were out. I know those are huge for a lot of families. Again, because I wasn't a sports guy, it wasn't as big of a deal in our house, although my son got turned on to baseball. And there was some angst there for a while. Like he was thoroughly convinced that I was costing him his major league career.
AT&T has officially agreed to a $177 million sum for a class action lawsuit.
Family and friends. So we've got relationships that haven't been the same because people just couldn't get their heads around the fact that we had changed.
Surprise! Your social security number was leaked.
I remember especially
again.
The first
But
year.
this time at least you're gonna get.
So we left in September. We came back for Christmas. So even by then, you've been gone for several months, which is more than a vacation usually is. And we went to my family's Christmas party, and there was just no interest in what we had done. Like, I didn't want to get up and do this, but I thought somebody, hey, how's it going? Where you been? None of that. None of it. And all they wanted to talk about was, who's dating who, from a celebrity point of view, and what football team is. I walked out. I just went for a walk. I'm like, I can't do this. And still, there's relationships that, I don't yet understand really what happened. I don't know if, we changed and they didn't, and they resent that or what, but they can't get their arms around who we are now. The other thing that we found for us is it's kind of ruined us for a normal life. Like, I drive past like housing subdivisions now that have all those look-alike houses and generally the same color schemes, and like it gives me the creepy thoughts. Like, I can't imagine living in there anymore and living that way. I forget whose quote it is, but we shape our buildings, and then our buildings shape us. And I think that's very true. Like if you go live in one of those neighborhoods and all your neighbors are pulling boats and sea-doos around all the time, you start going, maybe we should do that too. Maybe that's just how life is supposed to happen. I mean, I just can't. So we're here in Tulsa for, I don't know, we're going on our third year here. Love Tulsa, don't get me wrong, but we're not going to die here. Where we're going to go, I don't know, but RVers have a saying called the hitch itch.
It's 2025.
And it's just, okay, we've been in this spot, it's been great, wonder what's down the road. And so you get the itch to hitch up and go, and it's not quite there yet, but I know it'll come.